So I'll tell you right up front, this morning, this week, as I worked on this message, I struggled with it. I wrestled with it. And I kind of almost beat my head against the wall because it's like, I couldn't figure out what the direction the Lord was wanting me to go with this. And yet, I know that as I was working and preparing, that this is the scripture He laid on my heart for the week. And I titled this message this morning, With God, we are more than conquerors. And I was thinking, about the masks that we've been talking about all throughout this year. The masks that we wear because we don't want people to really see who we are. The masks that we wear thinking that we're hiding something in our life from God. And yet God knows everything. There's nothing that we can put on, or no mask, or no words that we can do that hide the true attitude of our heart. And I was thinking about this message and knowing that this is where God was leading us. And then all of a sudden, Friday night, I was looking for a book, and I still haven't found it. One of my commentaries is missing, and it's one that I use often, and it's kind of got me back. But I was looking for that. And Paula has been helping me look, and so she rearranged some of the books that are on our headboard. And if you was to go into our bedroom, you can see there's probably, close to 30 books on her headboard. And the book that I'm reading right now, she kind of got down to the bottom of the pack, and the one on top is a book that I read a lot of years ago, and I keep going back to. It's titled Blameless at His Coming. And it's a book that is a combination of multiple authors, all of which are our general superintendents. And what this is sermons that they had preached throughout the years of their ministry. And all of a sudden it hit me. Why I had been struggling so much with this scripture this week was I was focusing solely on chapter 8 of Romans. If any of you that have read Romans, you've got to realize that you can't get to chapter 8 until you've dealt with chapter 7. And in chapter 7, we see that, Paul is talking about all of these things that happen. And we get into this one portion of chapter 7, and I call it the doo-doo. Because Paul is saying, I do the things that I don't want to do, even though I know the things that I want to do, and I don't do them. And it's this struggle that he's battling within himself. Then you turn to the next chapter. And Paul says that we don't live under that law, but we live under Christ. And He has replaced that law. And in that, we can live above and beyond all of that other stuff that we see in chapter 7. And it clicked. As soon as I saw that book, I remembered this. And I was like, oh, man. Now I get why I've been struggling with this. Because in chapter 8, it's really exciting. And we see all of the things that God has put in place to extend grace to us that don't deserve it. And as I was working on this week, I came across the story of Charles Stanley. Charles Stanley is the founder of In Touch Ministries. He's a Baptist pastor. His son is Andy Stanley, who is prominent in our culture today. But as I was reading this story, it kind of clicked. He'd been taking this class in college and seminary. He says, one of my most memorable seminary professors had a practical way of illustrating to the students the concept of grace. It's the end of the semester. The professor had gone through everything and taught everything. It comes down to the final exam. He hands out this final exam. And right there, he makes this statement. He says, don't mark anything until you have read through the entire exam. And then, to reiterate that, right in bold print on top of this exam, it says, do not start taking the exam until you've read through everything. And so the students, they start looking, start reading through the questions, and Carl says that about halfway through the exam, you start hearing all of these groans and agonizing, just grunts coming out of people as they're about halfway through the exam and they're realizing they didn't study. Or they didn't study the right stuff. And then on the last page, there's a note that says, you have a choice. You can either complete the exam as given, or sign your name at the bottom, and in so doing, receive an A for the assignment. And he says he sat there stunned. Was he serious? Just sign it and get an A. And then slowly, the point dawned on him. One by one, they turned in their tests and silently filed out. He says, later when I went back and talked with the professor, he says, he shared with me some of the reactions that he'd received from people who've been taking that same exact exam. He says there's some that they didn't pay attention to all the warnings. The verbal warning, the written warning, don't mark this at all. And they get through and they start taking the test immediately. He says, through the times, and he says there's been some that have gotten halfway through it and got to that same agonizing point as the rest of these students where they're just groaning because they realize they don't know this stuff. And he said he's had, over the years, had some students just come back and throw the exam at the professor. He said there's been, on occasion, a few who have read through the exam and decided to go back and take the test anyway. Because they didn't want to accept something they didn't learn. You see, what the professor was really trying to do was demonstrate in a very, very physical way grace. It's hard to explain it because it's something extended to us. It's something given to us that we can't earn. That there's no way we can earn. We don't deserve it, no matter how good we are or how much stuff we have done. Or maybe we're dedicating all of our time doing good. We can't earn it. But grace is something given to us freely. And all we have to do is accept it. Just like on that exam, all they had to do to receive that A, sign their name. You see, even in the world that we live in, there's people that don't want to accept. They think they need to earn it. They want to earn it. And he said that one of those students over the years that had that opportunity to receive that A, but they took the exam anyway, ended up with a C. He could have easily gotten it. Grace isn't something we deserve. Grace isn't something we can earn, but it's something that's freely given. Today, what we're going to be looking at is Romans chapter 8, verses 31 through 39. And what I want us to realize is these are the very last words in Romans chapter 8. These are the very, very end of it, the last part. So I want to encourage you this week. Go back. Go back and spend some time in Romans chapter 7. And wrestle with the things that Paul was wrestling with. And realize that we cannot do it. We can't beat that sinful life. We cannot live above and beyond it without God. Let's stand as we read God's word this morning. What then shall we say in response to these things? If God is for us, who can be against us? He who did not spare his own son, but gave him up for us all, how will he not also, along with him, graciously give us all things? Who will bring any charge against those whom God has chosen? It is God who justifies. Who then is the one who condemns? No one. Christ Jesus, who died, more than that, who was raised to life, is at the right hand of God, and is also interceding for us. Who shall separate us from the love of Christ? Shall trouble or hardship or persecution or famine or nakedness or danger or sword? As it is written, for your sake we face death all day long. We are considered as sheep to be slaughtered. No, in all these things we are more than conquerors through him who loved us. For I am convinced that neither death nor life, nor neither angels nor demons, neither the present nor the future, nor any powers, neither height nor depth, or anything else in all creation, will be able to separate us from the love of God that is in Christ Jesus our Lord. Lord, I pray that today as we look at this, your word, that as we dive into this and try to just dissect it and see how does these things, what are these things, how does it apply to me? How does it apply to me? Lord, I pray that you would open our eyes and our ears, that we would see and hear. More than that, Lord, I pray that you would open our hearts. We would understand, follow. Lord, we love you and praise you. In your name we pray. May we see you. See, the example that Charles Stanley was sharing about the professor, that's really good. That's great. And it kind of helps us understand that here these students, even though they did everything they could, didn't do enough to pass. And it shows us a pretty good example of what grace is. You see, when we look at the scripture this morning, it's talking about all of these things, and this and that, and this and that. But the most important part we need to remember is with God. With God. We are more than conquerors. With God, we can live this holy life that He's called us to live. With God at work in our lives, we can live the way He has. With the Holy Spirit at work in our lives, He guides us and He helps us to avoid sin. Does that mean we're not going to fall? Does that mean we're not going to stumble? No, we still do. When we take that for that split second, that's all it takes, for that split second for us to take our eyes off of Christ, start following self. We start following those sinful desires. But with Christ, we can live above and beyond. And one of the things that I was reminded this week that I don't do a very good job of is taking advantage of the tools that God has given us to be able to live that way. And one of the things that first quickly came to my mind was God has given us what Paul calls in Ephesians chapter 6, the armor of God. And Paul tells us that we're supposed to put this armor on daily. And I'll be honest with you, a lot of days I don't think about it. But over the years, I've come to realize I'm a little slow sometimes on the uptake. It takes me a little longer to get to the point I should have been at years ago. But I've come to realize that one of the times that the devil attacks me the most, and it's hard, I don't know, I don't get it, but it's when I'm doing my sermon. He starts bringing all these different thoughts into my mind and trying to distract me from the direction that I know God is leading me, and different things. And it's like this week has been a really hard week for us, and it's just been, like I said, I struggled with the scripture, I struggled with a lot of different things, and all of a sudden I was reminded. Ephesians chapter 6, starting at verse 10 says, "Finally, be strong in the Lord and in His mighty power. Put on the full armor of God so that you can take your stand against the devil's schemes. For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the powers of this dark world, and against the spiritual forces of the evil in the heavenly realms. Therefore, put on the full armor of God, so that when the day of evil comes, you may be able to stand your ground. And after you have done everything to stand firm then, with the belt of truth buckled around your waist, with the breastplate of righteousness in its place, and with your feet fitted with readiness that comes from the gospel of peace. In addition to all this, take up the shield of faith, with which you can extinguish all the flaming arrows of the evil one. Take the helmet of salvation and the sword of the Spirit, which is the Word of God. I was reading that this week and I was thinking, Lord, how does this apply to me? How does this work in my life? And then I got thinking and I was thinking, Lord, there's a lot of times when I'm working on the message, I get distracted. And so, I think it was Friday morning when I got up and started working, I thought, Lord, I need you more than, well, not more than any other day, because I need you every day. But I did this today, on Friday, and I visually went through dressing myself in that armor. And I wasn't distracted in the same ways that I've been distracted in the past. I didn't get everything done Friday like I normally do. And I was frustrated with that because I still was wrestling with this whole idea of I was hanging out in chapter 8 and it wasn't until Friday night that I realized I needed to go back a little bit. And Saturday morning, I got up and did that again. Really putting on that armor. And you know what? Those things in the past months that were constantly nagging at me and pulling at me when I was working on the message and stuff, it was non-existent. And I want to encourage us. We're talking about being more than conquerors through Jesus Christ. And this is one of the tools that God has given us so that we can live as conquerors and that we can live this victorious, sanctified life that He is calling us to. It's not in our strength. This is just one of the examples of the tools that God has equipped us with. But are we taking advantage of it? Or do we just kind of read through it and gloss over it? So then we move through Scripture. And it says all of these things. And what is all of these things? What is it? If God is for us, who can be against us? So let's kind of let our imaginations go for just a minute, okay? We're going to kind of pretend like we're in a courtroom. And, you know, for me anyway, you know, I watched a lot of Perry Mason and those kind of shows when I was younger. And so the court theme and scenario isn't something that is totally out there where I can't wrap my mind around it. So here today, we're going to pretend like we're in the courtroom. And we have God. We have Satan. And we're on trial. And you know, Satan, he starts out. God says the liar. Because we know Satan is the king of all lies, the creator and the master of lies. This is God. And this time, he's telling the truth. This one, Ron, he's harbored impure thoughts. And Ron has acted out on these thoughts. And here, we've got them recorded. They're verified, certified, notarized cases of gossip and sexual sin and hatred and bitterness and cheating and lying and coveting, self-smugness and laziness and drunkenness. And the list goes on. And it's embarrassing because it's so personal and here we are. All of our stuff, all of the sin that we've lived in our entire life is put on display. The things that we thought that we did in secret, the things that we did behind closed doors with the curtains pulled where nobody can see us. Guess what? Not only does God see it, the devil knows. He's the one there, planting those thoughts and those desires in our minds. Finally, we've had enough, and we just say, God, I know what I'm supposed to do. About Romans 7. God, I know what I'm supposed to do, but I can't seem to do it. And Father, I know better, and I did wrong, and I don't deserve your mercy, your love, your salvation. I don't deserve you being for me. That's God says, can I ask you something? What made you think you ever deserved it? See, go back to grace. It's something deserve, something we can't earn, and yet it's freely given. But guess what? The devil, the king of all lies, is over here saying, oh, you don't deserve that. You can't get it. There's no way for you to experience grace because you've got all of this garbage in your life. You're so full of sin. Yet God's saying, well, you never think you deserve this. It's freely given. God knows about all this. And yet, still, sent His Son to die for us. He sent His Son to pay a price that He didn't deserve to pay. He who did not spare His own Son, but gave Him up for us all. How will He not also, along with graciously give us all things? See, there's absolutely no way we deserve it. There's absolutely nothing that we can do. And Paul, he listed out these things in chapter 7 of all the things that he was dealing with. And you got to remember, okay, who is Paul? He is the one that says, I am the greatest of all sinners. He's the one that was going out persecuting and destroying Christians and killing them, trying to wipe out the Christian movement. And yet, God got a hold of that man's heart and changed his life to just to be as zealous as he was to wipe out here he is in chapter 7 saying, but I know the things I'm supposed to do, and I don't do them. And I know the things I don't want to do, and that's what I do. But he didn't just stop there. He didn't just Satan was reminding him of all the sins he's committed. It's very, very possible he's trying to get you to just quit and walk away. God loves you. God is for you. Satan is stepping up the attacks because he sees what's happening and he sees that you are on the verge of a major breakthrough. Be used by God. Don't keep being stuck in chapter 7 of Romans. Move on. Move on into chapter 8. And read those words. Words of hope. Then we move on to the last phrases. It says more than. More than conquerors. What happens when people go to war and the new king comes in and he set up everything, and he's the conqueror, and everything is his. And Scripture's saying that you're going to be more than conquerors. You've got more than just everything. Christ. This isn't mine. I read this week, and I don't know who the author was, but he he posted something on Facebook to just a couple of his friends. He got such an overwhelming response that he shared it out in a pastor's forum or Facebook page he was in, and eventually he made it into a message that he preached. He says, my friends who've been going through the ringer, keep going. Don't let the devil win. God is in control. And I read that this week, and it's like, oh my word, there's so many times in my life, in my pastoral ministry, and this is like, I'm just done. When the attacks are coming so hard, and you can't see anything happening good, and the attacks start turning personal against you and your family, and guess what? I'm a dad. I love my family. I'm a husband. I love my wife. And I want to protect them, especially when those attacks start getting so personal that it's hurting my family. We've been there on several occasions. And you know what? That first thought that comes to my mind is, I want to protect my family. I'm done. I can go away from people and find a job where all I have to do, my responsibility is taking care of my family, providing. But for me, at least, those thoughts come when I refrain. There's a lot of years ago. I said yes. I said yes to the Lord no matter where you want me to go, no matter what the things I'm going to go through. My yes is yes. My desire is yes to protect my family, but more than that, my desire is to honor God with my life no matter what. And I read these words, and I think, my friends who have been going through the ringer lately, keep going. Don't let the devil win. God is in control. And I think back over the times and the experiences that we have gone through personally. And I thought, you know, if I would have given up in my first church, when this and that happened, and it would have been so easy, it was just a small little church, you know, it would have been real easy to walk away from that. But if I would have said, I'm done, then, and you got to realize back then I was working at Pellet Corporation. I was making $19, $20 an hour, making good money. We had our house that we just remodeled. We had friends that we were living with by, and if I would have given up then, we never would have moved to Wausau, where today there's several people attending church that didn't know the Lord in Wausau. The devil would have won. The devil would have been the winner in that, not God, because I would have been putting myself before my yes. More than that means, even though we might be going through a whole lot of garbage, even though we might be stuck in the middle of this turmoil and all of this stuff that's crushing in on us, we need to keep trusting. The devil's going to keep trying to remind us of our failures. He's going to keep reminding of us of our shortcomings and where, oh, you said you did, whatever. But we need to go back to Scripture. We need to rest in these words. Verse 39. Verse 37. No. In all of these things, we are conquerors through me pursuing and saying yes and yes and yes. Yet, guess what? Even though I'm saying yes, I'm still not the one in control. I'm still not the one guiding the ship. It's Christ. That means, with His help, we can be wholly sanctified and set apart. God is the truth. I am convinced that neither I am convinced that neither death nor life, neither angels nor demons, neither the present nor the future, nor any powers, neither height nor depth, nor anything else in all creation will be able to separate us from the love of God that is in Christ Jesus. Lord, I pray today that as we are here listening to this, your word, Lord, that you would encourage us. Because I know that sitting here this morning, there's a lot of people that are struggling. And Lord, I know that people have the desire to follow you and do what it is you're asking us to do, and yet the devil's constantly there telling us that reminding us of all of our past failures, of all of the things that we have not done right. Lord, I pray today that you would draw us closer to you. That you would help us to focus on you. That you would remind us that you are in control of God. And Lord, that as we go from this place today, you would give us a burning passion to reach out to the lost, to share the love that we know through you with those we come in contact